Welcome to Arts Roll Call, a podcast showcasing artists and arts organizations, highlighting the role of the arts today in Greater Lansing. I'm Robin Miner Swartz. I'm an editor, communications consultant, and a lifelong arts advocate. And today I'm talking with Barb Whitney, an arts and education champion, both as an artist and nonprofit leader. Barb is the Director of Operations for My Creative Potential, a statewide initiative supporting equitable access to arts education in Michigan. And she works with the Kennedy Center Partners in Education program involving Wharton Center for Performing Arts and the Ingham Intermediate School District. As adjunct faculty member at Michigan State University since 2017, Barb also researches inequities in U.S. arts education and advocates for the arts as a human right. As an artist, Barb explores light, shadow, and emotion through intuitive abstraction. Her work can be found as far as Palm Springs, California, and as locally as the Nelson Art Gallery here in Lansing. Her most recent works are inspired by alcohol ink as a medium. In 2023, she was the artist in residence for An Incredibly Human Thing at McLaren Hospital, responding to pandemic-related grief and resilience. Barb believes art offers healing and insight. Her work, whether through teaching, advocacy, or studio practice, centers youth, equity, and the power of creativity to connect and transform. Barb, welcome to Arts Roll Call. I am so happy to talk with you today.
Thank you, Robin. I'm delighted to be with you. It's wonderful to see you again.
Yes, you too. And I'm looking forward to this conversation because although I've known you for years, I don't know that we've ever really dug into your story from start to finish. And so we get to do a little bit of that today, and I'm excited for that. And to that end, art has really been a guiding force in every part of your life. Could you start off by sharing how you first started making art and some of those early steps that you took toward becoming a professional artist?
Well, we do have evidence at about 2, I started painting. Most children do. I loved musical theater in high school. I had some wonderful opportunities in the humanities and took a field trip to the Chicago Institute of Art. I think I was probably 17, something like that. So went to school thinking that I was going to maybe do Broadway, and then took a basic drawing course that changed my life forever. It helped me see light and shadow and color value and texture and pattern, and just it changed the lens through which I see the world. So I asked if I could continue doing that, and they said, yeah, why not? Do the visual arts. So I ended up with a degree in art and art history with a minor in music and vocal performance. That was Kalamazoo College where I did that.
Oh, nice.
And then I worked in the field for, I think, at least 15 years before I went back to school and got my master's in arts administration from U of M Flint.
Mm-hmm. And your work has really evolved quite a bit over the years. Could you talk about that trajectory and what your studio work looks like today versus where you started? And what does it mean when you say your work is intuitive?
Yes. So I'm a trained artist.
Mm-hmm.
I went through all those courses you do. And at Kalamazoo College, we had studio practice that involved everything ranging from figure drawing to oil painting. And there's a canon, right, that we look at. And I find that what I love the very most is if I just allow myself to go into the studio and create without any specificity or rules aside from the color and the canvas. And that's when I feel the most joyful. I have found with this new medium, alcohol ink, that the serendipity of the work just brings me a whole lot of joy. I love to just get out what now has turned into dropping paint on paper and allowing it to move freely, but then even manipulating it with things like a fireplace blower or a hair dryer to move the ink around the canvas and to witness, but also manipulate in that process, which I consider intuitive. It's not, sketching something out and then being representational in any given way. It's just about a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And in the project for An Incredibly Human Thing, what that enabled me to do was to work really large because my studio space has always been about maybe like a 10 by 10 foot
Mhm.
space. And it was a massive gray box, they call it. So it was windows and just really beautiful, natural light. And so when someone suggested, well, you can prop paintings on easels, I was like, oh no, I need to think of something else. And that's when we started working on translucent UPO paper.
Mm.
Um, Chad Badrow was an excellent thought partner in that project from Peppermint Creek Theater Company. And my colleague Steve over at the residential college was wonderful in helping me think through what that new normal looked like as well.
How did the pandemic affect you as an artist?
Well, we were closed in, weren't we?
Yeah.
It enabled me to do 10 to 12 hours on Zoom any given day. Um, and then I think once I settled in a little bit, um, and we knew that the gallery had a certain level of funding, I did start making. I painted fire
Mm.
for about a year and change, working with the Williamston Theater Company and their fire tour out in Williamston.
Mhm.
So I just painted fire over and over and over. And then I did water after that and worked with Nelson Gallery and have done some of the elements in that series. But I also I had a pretty horrific COVID related health issues
Mhm.
experience, which led to I couldn't breathe, I couldn't walk, I couldn't speak at one point. And so the gratitude I feel for being able to do everyday activities continues to undergird most of what I do on a day-to-day
Mhm.
basis. But
Mhm.
it changed my art pretty significantly because I experienced something called synesthesia. So I was seeing color in a different way. It was if I listened to the symphony, in fact, my first experience back to see the symphony, I could see the colors.
Wow.
And uh, so it's changed the way I see things again in a different way, 20 years after going to college and having that epiphany. It's been wonderful and terrible, but I'm on the road to long-term recovery and every day feel grateful that I'm better than I was.
That's so good to hear.
Thank you.
I'd like to shift over and talk about your work as an arts nonprofit leader. Through both your roles with the Lansing Art Gallery and Education Center and the Arts Council of Greater Lansing, what changes have you seen in the arts scene over the years, and what stands out to you as significant in the Greater Lansing arts scene today?
I think when I worked at the Arts Council, I gained a real understanding of what was happening throughout the community.
Mhm.
Lansing has an incredibly vibrant arts scene, and working with Leslie Donaldson at that time helped me, and Dawn Gorman too, and Chad
Mhm.
Badrow, helped me understand not just what was happening hyper locally and all the incredible things that are encapsulated within that, but also going to Art Prize in Grand Rapids and Leslie Donaldson sitting me down and saying, "What do you want to be doing? What are you doing now? And what do you want to be doing?" was the question that we often asked artists. And so we would
Mhm.
help them write grants, seek funding, gain opportunities to showcase their art. And the Arts Council helped me gain that understanding of what was happening in the arts and participatory ways to engage, but also helped me grow as an artist because that was a conversation that I was having with my employer, and that felt really special.
Yeah, it had to feel empowering to have the place you are working for doing the same thing to lift up and promote and support artists, and have you be one of those people as well.
Right. Absolutely. And I loved walking through grant applications with folks and helping
Mhm.
them develop their narrative on what they're doing and how they'd like to see that change and then garner the resources to make it happen. We
Mhm.
funded everything from new laptop computers to light sets and um, trips for folks to go learn and do professional learning and development. It's just it's an outstanding institution, and
Mhm.
programs that support artists are really excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure the recent closing of the Lansing Art Gallery was painful to see. What are some of your fondest memories of the gallery, and what lessons can the community take from its closing?
Yes. Yes. I wrote a blog about how, although I haven't worked for it in a few years, I have fiercely loved Lansing Art Gallery and Education Center for decades because that is so true. I I just love it so dearly, and it's been difficult
Mhm.
to bear witness and then attempt to support through this difficult transition. Yes, absolutely. It's been challenging. I think I think for nonprofit organizations, we see they are of the community,
Mhm.
and when sometimes community support wanes for whatever reason, the right part of that life cycle is to dissolve. It's always, I
Mhm.
think, heartbreaking for some when a nonprofit loses traction or momentum. But I also think we're a really nimble community full of grit, and I'm hopeful to see what might come next in terms of ways of working and engaging with artists. Um, Part of their closure included some really nice ways of helping artists and other folks in the community know about the Arts Council and other organizations like Beach Studio Art Center and Nelson Gallery downtown, um, Casa de Rosado, so that people know there are arts and cultural organizations doing excellent work and how you can engage or support.
Mhm. Well, and that sort of tees up my next question, which is the Arts Council does bridge some of that gap that's created by the gallery closing, whether that be with grants or programming. How has the Arts Council been important to you beyond your time there as a program manager? And we touched a little bit on this, but I'd like to know what benefits should the community be taking advantage of with the council from your perspective?
Yes, well, as soon as I was no longer on staff, I could apply for grants.
Yeah.
So I've been a Chris Clark Fellow more than once. The opportunity to be supported in your work publicly is truly amazing. It offers a legitimacy. When you write a grant, you state the ways you'd like to make change and what you'd like to achieve. And sometimes just by figuring that out, saying that, writing it down, you end up achieving those goals because you're talking that through with colleagues or with potential funders. In the case of the fellowships, it helped me attend professional conferences that took my work to the next level, that offered me opportunities to present nationally. I mean, it's just been a really stellar opportunity for me to continue. Even the mini grants that were offered through the Michigan Arts and Culture Council and the professional learning opportunities that came through that, they really helped me make the time to tell the story about how I could work differently, how I could establish a network of peers at the national level. And then I went ahead and did it.
You've really had an interesting career trajectory. You've been able to it feels to me as somebody watching you grow through these things, you've taken what you've learned at each step and it's grown you into a new place that you maybe didn't even imagine that you would be back when you were doing your earliest drawing classes and thinking about yourself as an artist. And I'm wondering, as an arts administrator, it obviously makes sense that arts education would be important to you, but how did that become a driving force in your career and in the teaching that you're doing at Michigan State?
The most rewarding work for me is being an educator. In a lot of ways, it's so communal and
Mhm.
in a really beautiful exchange of learning and teaching. In many ways, the teacher's the learner and the learner's the teacher too. So, you write up these artist statements and you do a teaching philosophy statement, but I really mean it that my students teach me every time I'm interacting with them, and I learn from them about current trends and influences. Right now, I'm teaching the policy and advocacy course at Michigan State University for arts and cultural management and museum studies. So we're talking a lot about what's happening at a national level in terms of policy and advocacy, which is considered threatened and at risk in arts and culture as well as in other areas. And boy, those students come every time with articles and backstories and explanation of how this affects them in their lives. They're also becoming champions for the arts and for arts education. I think for me, in the Lansing area, a lot of us became arts education champions when about a decade ago, some of the arts were cut in the schools, and then we were a case study for the national level, and that offered opportunities to really think through what makes a great education for students. How is that a holistic practice where the whole child is being educated and where our creative learners are being fostered? We know that the arts helps children in schoolwork and life. So it became a passion point to me once I started grad school and really studying how the intersection of race, critical theories, and equity, they all intersect with whether children get access to the arts or not.
Well, I'd like to hear about your work with My Creative Potential. Talk a little bit about what the organization does and what's your role.
We work under the umbrella of the Michigan Assessment Consortium. In Michigan, we have a suite of remarkable resources in assessment, and My Creative Potential grew out of that work. During the pandemic, a couple of really critical organizations closed in Michigan that were dedicated to arts education, including Michigan Youth Arts and Creative Money Michigan. Both of those entities closed. And so My Creative Potential was born out of the void in those efforts and helps kids get equitable access to arts education across the state. Part of how we're doing that is through collecting data, because if we measure what we matter, we want to measure whether kids are getting access to the arts in the schools. And when we talk about the arts, we talk about visual arts, music, theater, dance, and media arts, which is very popular right now. It's a growing field and industry. So there are a lot of opportunities there when we think about the creative workforce and places where people want to live and work. They're arts rich kinds of communities. So there's a lot to argue for there.
This is the perfect time to segue into your new art project with Lansing Community College and the American Council on Education. Can you talk about what you'll be doing and how the public can engage with it?
Yes, I can. I'm so excited. I think one of the takeaways I have from an incredible group of women who I dine with most Fridays, ask for what you want. Start saying it out loud. And I started saying, I'd like to be an artist in residence. So I did that at McLaren. And then I'm going to do that through Lansing Community College. I'll be working in a studio space on campus that is stunning, right across from Accident Fund. And it looks like it'll be a project that's a 2-year project. The first piece of the work will be this spring, and the following will be the next spring. And it's a national entity where we have this chapter in Michigan, and the folks at Lansing Community College are spearheading the project. They want to make it an arts embedded experience, everything from walking into the Kellogg Center to enjoying the breakout sessions will have some facet of arts related work. And so as an artist, I just get to be inspired by that concept of women in academia and then make whatever happens. At least that's how I envision it. And I'll have works for sale there. And then it seems like a really incredible way to gather folks intentionally with It sounds as though this conference is a moment of respite
Mm.
for women professionals in academia, and that's part of what they're seeking to provide.
Fueled by art, it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Barb, is there anything else you'd like us to know about your art or where we can find it, or anything else folks might want to know about you?
Oh, yes, I have a website called barbwhitneyart.com,
Hmm.
and that has the blog there if you're interested in reading that. More
Great.
information about my artwork, my work as a professional in the field in nonprofit administration, and also my teaching philosophy, among other things we talked about today.
That's awesome. Well, we've got that up on the screen for folks to come visit you there, and hopefully they will also encounter you out in the wild with some of your art as well in some of these places you've talked about too. That's awesome. Thanks, Barb.
Thank you.
This podcast has been a production of the Arts Council of Greater Lansing. To learn more about them, go to lansingarts.org.